Today in Capechi's Corner, we're going to look at box and whisker plots. And what that is, it's just a way to display and organize data. So let's look at the first one, and we'll go over the vocabulary as we create it. So it's asked us to draw this box and whisker plot for the given data. So the first thing I like to do is I like to count up all the numbers in my data points. There's 8, so that way I'm not forgetting any. So when I'm done, I'm going to count them. Then what we do is we put them in order from least to greatest. And then I double check. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, which is good. I didn't miss any, right? I was supposed to have 8. I have 8, so I'm good. Okay, so now what do we do? Well, the box and whisker plot is really all about the median. So we're going to start with the median. I have 8 numbers. So my middle number is going to be actually right between 18 and 23. Okay, now to find that, like we've done in the past, to find the median, I add 18 and 23 and divide by 2 to find the very middle, and that's 20.5. So my median is 20.5. Now, to find the lower quartile, that's the lower portion, that's the middle of those numbers. So again, the middle of those 4 numbers is going to be there. Add them up, divided by 2, and I get 11.5. So the lower quartile is sometimes also called the first quartile. I've seen it go back and forth between those vocabulary phrases. Okay. Upper quartile is the same thing. We look at our top 4 numbers, in this case, the top part of these numbers, and find the middle or the median of those data points, and I get 25.5. So again, the upper quartile is also sometimes called the third quartile. In case you see that phrase, it's the same thing. Now, my lower extreme is the very lowest value. That's 8. My upper extreme is 30. Sorry, my upper extreme is 30. And then my interquartile range is between my lower quartile and my upper quartile. You subtract them, and that's your interquartile range. It's the range that's going on the inside. So when I do that, I get 14. Okay, so there's the data points. Now, how to create a box and whisker? Well, first I start with the median. And then it's 20.5. So I'm going to put that right about here. And then my other part of my box, that's inside my box. The other part of my box is my quartiles. So I have 11.5 is about here. That's my lower quartile or first quartile. And then I have 25.5 is there. I draw my box. My lower extreme is going to be 8. So I have a point there. This is my whisker. And my other whisker, I'm going to take my upper extreme, which is 30. I'm going to go there, and that's my box and whisker plot. Now, the other thing about the box and whisker plot is everything is in chunks of 25%, right? So from my lower extreme to my lower quartile, that's going to be 25% of the data. Same thing here. From my lower extreme to my median is 25%. From my median to my upper is also 25%. And from my upper quartile to my upper extreme is also 25%. So if a question asks you about what percentage of the data is above this or below that, you can only have these answers. It's either 0%, 25, 50, 75, or 100%. There's never going to be something like 33 or 47. Everything is in chunks of 25%. All right, let's try another one. This time there's 9 numbers. So when I go to do my box and whisker, my median now is a definite value. It's 60. And again, I'm going to take the middle of my lower. And that's going to be 27.5. That's my lower quartile. And the middle of my upper. And that's going to be 82.5. Okay, so my lower extreme is 15. My upper extreme is 95, right? My lowest and my highest values. And then my interquartile range is the distance between each of my quartiles. So that's going to be 55. And my range, kind of my regular range, is going to be the highest value minus the lowest value. So that's going to give me 80. Okay, so let's create our box and whisker here. So I have 60 is in the center, and then I have 27.5 is about here. And then I have 82.5 is about here. Draw my box. And my whisker, I go up to 95. And my other whisker, I go down to 15. And that's it. Now remember, each of these little areas are worth 25% of the data. All right, so now let's take a look at some multiple choice questions that we've seen on some standardized tests. So it says, which set of numbers is represented by the given box and whisker? Now, if I look, all the data points are not in order. So I am going to have to kind of take a look at that. Some of them are, some of them are not. But my lowest value is going to be 15. My highest value is going to be 30. So I'm going to start with that. Well, letter A, I do have 15, but I don't have 30. So that can't be an option. And letter C, here, it doesn't look like I have either. So that's not going to be an option. And letter B, I do have 15 and I do have 30. And letter D, I also have 15 and 30. So just looking about at those two, I've narrowed it down, those 2 points, I've narrowed it down to 2 answers. Now I know my median, my middle number is going to be 24. Now in letter B, I can see that those values are in order. So if I look at my middle point there, that's 23, which is not 24. So let's just double check with D. It looks like if I go either way, my middle or my median is going to be right between 23 and 25, which would be 24. So D is my answer there. Okay, pulling in the next question, the stem and leaf plot, which we've always talked about. It says shows the length and minutes of each movie playing at the local movie theater this week. Which statement about the data is true? Okay, so again, anytime you see this information, you always have to start with the median. So I do notice that there's 16 numbers. So my middle values right here is between the 2 and the 5. So my middle values is going to be between, it's 112 plus 125. I divide that by 2, and my median is going to be 113.5. I'm going to just make a little box and whisker off here to the left. Okay, then I'm going to take my middle numbers of my lower data, which is going to be right between there, the 7 and the 9. So I'm going to add them together, divide by 2. I get 98. Do the same thing with my upper, and I have 118 and 120. So my upper is going to be 119. Add them together, divide by 2. And my lowest value is 88, and my highest value is 133. My interquartile range, remember, I'm going to take 119 and minus 98, and I end up with 21. Okay, so now that I have all the data points, let's see what it says. It says which one is true. Lower quartile is 97. That's not true. The lower quartile is 98. Median is 113. Close, but not quite there. The upper quartile is 119. That looks good. And let's just double check. The interquartile range is 22, which again is not correct because it's 21. So my answer there is letter C. Okay, moving on to the next one. It says the list below describes the results in minutes and seconds of the 800-meter run during a track meet. So what I did is I took the information they gave us and I kind of created a little box and whisker. The fastest time was 2 minutes. First quartile here was 2 minutes and 15 seconds. The third quartile again, or upper quartile, is 3 minutes and 5 seconds. And the slowest time was 3:30. Okay. So again, this time it talks about, which one is most likely true. So it says about half the times were between 2 minutes and 40 seconds. Now, I don't really know exactly where that's going to be. It's not necessarily right between 2:15 and 3:05. So I can't say that for sure. It could be, but I don't know for sure. About half the times were between 2 and 2:45. So again, I don't really know where that middle value is. So I can't really say that for sure. About 1/4, remember 1/4 is 25%, right? 1/4 of the times were between 2:15 and 3:30. Well, that would be 75%, not 25%. So that's a no. About 1/4 of the times were between 3:05 and 3:30, which that looks good, right? Because every chunk there is 25%. So we're going to go with letter D. All right, let's keep going. It says they give us a box and whisker this time, and they're asking us to kind of take a look at it. It says shows students score in a practice driving test. What is the range of the score? So remember, the range is the biggest minus the smallest. So 92 minus 70 gives me 22. Interquartile range is between my quartiles. So I have 78, and that looks about 87. So that's going to be 9. The next question says, if the plot represents 64 students, so if the whole thing were 64 students, about how many scored above the upper quartile? So again, above the upper quartile is 25%. So if I take the 64 students they're talking about and I multiply that by 0.25, that's going to give me 16. So we're talking about 16 students. Okay, let's take a look at the last questions. It says, passing score is 80. Explain how you know whether or not 50% of the students pass the test. So 50% of the students would be the middle or the median above, right? That's 50% of the students. Now, I can see that the median is 83. So the median is 83, right? So 50% scored above 83. It's saying the passing score is 80. So therefore, we know we're good because 83 is greater than 80. And we know that 50% or more passed the test. Okay. All right. Thanks so much for stopping by today. You have a great day.